Welcome back to the JLL Coaching Pod, episode 29. Can you believe it? It's a bit mental. Loads of pods this year, buzzing off of that. Last weekend, went out with a couple mates, Pat and Chris, and did a half marathon. I crushed it. 1 hour 32, little humble brag, except it's not humble, it's just a brag. And I'm just buzzing. Look, you can get stronger. You can PB in the gym and you can PB in running and cycling. That's not that hard, particularly when you're like not a professional athlete. If you're just a normal person, which will be everyone listening to this podcast, you can PB in multiple disciplinary things with different systems in the body. That's possible. That is possible. And we're going to talk about that today. Are you training hard enough? But first I want to dive into the marathon a little bit. So because it's a psychological battle and this half marathon, it's tough. We're going to do a full one next week. And just off the back of that last half, I had a blister. And obviously, as the stupid man that I am, I pulled the blister off. And now I have a cut on the bottom of my foot. And I can't even step on the foot. So it's not ideal. But let me just run you through the half marathon. So we go over to Tooting, South London. South. It's not how they speak there, but South London. And my friend Pat, he's like, we're going to do 2 laps of Tooting Common, 2.5. It's about 4 miles. So I'm like, excellent. So we start out fast, me and Chris leading the dog pack, the wolf pack, as they say. We've done about 2.5. And I'm like, cool, wicked, almost done. Been pushing, feels like ages. Bear in mind, I don't have a watch, and the phone is in a phone pocket in my shorts, which is extremely hard to get in and out of. That's what she said. So I didn't really know how far I'm going. So I'm done 2.5 laps. I'm like, all right, pretty much done. Put out the phone. 12 kilometers have been completed. And my heart sank because that's about halfway, and I thought we were done. We were not done. It was basically just getting started. So after that, it was kind of just hanging on. And then, so initially I was kind of running with Chris. Naturally, I sound so bad, but Chris fell back. He couldn't keep up. That's understandable. Chris fell back. He didn't have any water, which was stupid. And Pat was just obviously the more mature one. He kept a steady, solid pace throughout. He definitely could have ran faster. But I ran about the last between kilometers 15 and 20 with Pat at a pretty steady pace, and then pushed the last kilometer just so I could beat a few people that I knew, and I was buzzing with that. But next time I will try and stick to a steady pace. And like the benefits of doing an event or having a watch are becoming clearer and clearer to me, because managing expectations when you're doing something hard is super important just to keep morale high. Like, you don't want to go into a running event and be hanging on for the last half of it. You kind of want to build into it. Just psychologically, it's much easier to manage. But we hung on and we pushed through, and it was a really good time. Good barbecue after, so buzzing with that. Half marathon completed. A little sip of coffee. Coffee's doing bits for morale. Anyway, today, main topic is how to know you're training hard enough. How to know if you're training hard enough. I love this question. I absolutely love this question. And if you're serious about this life, if you're serious about making some gains in any kind of physical pursuit, you should be asking yourself, am I training hard enough? Is this too much? Is this too little? And I'm going to go into this a bit deeper, but the short answer here is your results. That is the biggest indicator if you're training hard enough. Because if you're getting good results, the answer is yes, you're training hard enough. Leave it as is. That's perfect. Keep going. Little tinker here and there, based on how you're feeling, based on your results. But if you're getting results in the qualities that you're pursuing, perfect. You are training hard enough. And hard enough is a relative subjective term that will change over time. Naturally, it's something that's alive. It's a complex thing, and you need to kind of keep reflecting and keep observing with your KPIs, your key performance indicators, with the outcomes you're pursuing. Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? Constantly questioning, constantly reflecting. How to know if you're training hard enough. Now, the biggest thing for me and for coaches and for your clients is, are you getting repeatable and reliable results over time? This is your biggest indicator. Are you getting good positive outcomes? Are you getting stronger? Are you getting faster? Are you getting fitter? Can you run further? Can you cycle further? Can you maintain a lower heart rate over a certain distance? All of these questions should be asked consistently over time to monitor if you're doing the right stuff to get these outcomes. And I think you will have a huge variety of outcomes in terms of rate of progress, depending on the individual, 100%. But you should still be making minute progress consistently over time. Now, that is a bit subjective and up for questions with regards to how often, but you will feel it. You should feel like you're making progress. If it's been a year since you've made any progress, your training's shocking, or something's wrong, you're injured, whatever. You need to change that. You need to fix that. That's a big sign for me. Oh, you haven't PB'd in a year? You're not training hard enough. Good sir. Good madam. So let these outcomes be leading the way with regards to, am I training hard enough? So when I started, I remember being in the gym, and I've always been an idiot in the gym, let's be honest. And I was always pushing really hard, like, this is hard. And pushing my sets as what I thought was close to failure. But honestly, it's like you need to learn how to push harder every single time you set foot in the gym. Because I thought I was working hard, but the reality was I was just nowhere near failure. And one of my favorite bodybuilding coaches at the moment, his content is just phenomenal. It's him putting on like loud classical music, getting himself riled up for these sets, lifting ridiculous weights. And he's so experienced and he's still getting good results. He's just the guy. And you can see before he gets into a set, the amount of emotion and meaning and kind of amplitude that he gets up before he starts a set. He's literally, and I say this to my clients, I love it. It gets me going. Get ready for war. It's so dramatic. It's way too dramatic. And we live in a modern, cushy society. But literally, if you want to kind of maximize your progress and gains, you have to just give everything for these sets. If you want to get stronger, there is not you can't have a minuscule of doubt. You have literally got to go to war against these weights. You've got to push yourself exceptionally hard. And over time, like, everything is relative, right? Everything is relative. So you only know what hard work is relative to what you've done before. So you should always be setting a new standard for what hard work is, because each session you should come in and be pushing a little bit more, get a little bit more amped up, and like, you should almost be petrified of going into a session. Like, this is getting dramatic. But the reality is, doing this, it just simply leads to highly repeatable and reliable results with strength training. Now, there is room for nuance and things like that around this conversation, but that comes second to this dog inside of you that you have to let out to get progress. I think this is kind of true throughout the universe. Like, look at Darwinian evolution. What's the kind of catchphrase? The strongest survive. That might not actually be true. It's probably the most variable survive, because they can survive in the most different environments. But you get the point. You get the idea. The principle is the strongest survives. You've got to go to war, and war becomes relative over time. So you need to keep pushing and building this ability to train hard. Now, another one of my friends, Lucas. Now, this guy is an absolute savage. And I'm pretty sure he's natural. And he did a bodybuilding show when he was 20. Looked unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. I've never seen him train. I would love to get a session with him. But we were in Lake Garda last summer. And I remember he said one thing to me. He was like, there is no one who can bring the intensity that I bring on a leg extension. Even if they're squatting, they're hack squatting, whatever. There is no one who can bring the intensity that I bring on a leg extension. And he was kind of saying, I bring the most amount of intensity to this simple exercise that I would get a better stimulus than anyone doing any of these other compound lifts with loads of weight, whatever. And that was like, oh, that's why he looks the way he looks. Like, this dude is massive. He's got massive squat, bench, and dead numbers. And he can really move some weight. And I was like, oh. And the point is, there is no one who is going to be different in the gym with regards to strength. No one who's going to stand out who cannot bring that level of intensity. Like, it is absolutely foundational to get repeatable and reliable results. And when I was younger, like, for me, bringing that intensity was almost like ego lifting and using momentum. No. The quality of your technique has to be absolutely dialed, and you have to build the skill of pushing through perfect technique, building tension throughout the body to drive perfect technique, maintain good positions, so the target tissues are the ones that get the adaptations, the stimulus. For example, bench pressing. It's so simple, and I've been so guilty of that, even last year, of my hips coming up and off the bench. That, my good sirs and madams, is not good hard training. That's other tissues coming into the game to try and take over. The target tissues need to be the ones doing the hard work at these high intensities. Just going crazy and kind of moving your whole body around to get the weight going, bit of momentum. Yeah, that's hard training. Yeah. But it's absolutely shocking with regards to the results you'll get. You have to stay dialed with your techniques. Technique and intensity come first. But this conversation of how hard should you be training, are you training hard enough, is also about the quality of work that you're doing. The quality has to be absolutely unparalleled. And that's what took me, again, like, just now I'm understanding that more and more. And I see it with my clients who haven't been lifting that long. Maybe they've been training with me a year, which sounds like a long time, but in reality it's a drop in the ocean. As our bench presses get heavier and heavier and heavier, and we're looking up at like kind of half your body weight in each hand, so you're 80 kilo male, 40 kilos in each hand, very, very respectable weights by any measure for someone who's been lifting a year. Or you're 70 kilos and we're looking at 32s and up. The thing I see consistently as these weights get heavier is that the desire for the hips to drive up and the inability to produce force through the targeted tissues. It's a skill, and you have to push through with good quality work. And I imagine you all have like a variety of jobs. Some of you will be coaches, but I think this principle is the same with work. You have to be able to push through at this high quality of work to get these good, repeatable, reliable results. You can't cut corners. You can't use your hips on a bench in any way to get these good, repeatable, reliable results. And the thing is, why? Is because you're not actually challenging the system directly that you want to create an adaptation. You're cutting corners and another system is getting trained. The system of cheating. We don't want that. We want the targeted systems to get the targeted adaptations. And I think that's repeatable in every single area of life. You can't be faffing around trying to cut corners. There is no substitute for the work, ever. In relationships, you have to do the work. You have to communicate. There's no weaseling around. There is only work. Something in my runs that I've been telling myself, and it's a bit cheesy or cringy or whatever, but what I've been saying is there is only work and love, and they are the exact same thing. And I'm sure someone will be like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? But that's just words that have been on my mind when things get hard on runs. I was in Croatia doing a 13-kilometer run in 15-kilometer run in 35-degree heat. And that's all I kept saying to myself. There is only work and love, and they are the same thing. Shit just gets me fired up. Words get me fired up. You got to get yourself fired up before you dive in these sets. We're not here to be average. You will get average results if your hips come up on a bench. Do you want to be exceptionally strong? Do you want to be the strongest in the room? Well, then that's the price to pay. The story we tell ourselves around how hard we train and the results we get is so important. You need to develop this story, this narrative that I'm only just beginning. There is way more work to put in and way better results to get. I am just learning. The video stopped, but I'm going to keep going with the pod. The card is full. It's heartbreaking. But yeah, I'm just going to make this quick and short. The story you tell yourself about how hard you're working is essentially important. You need to continually push yourself and tell yourself you have more before every single session. How to know you're training hard enough? The short answer is results. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.